Hello, now very warm welcome. You're watching the Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex, the show where we bring important unstart questions asked by the members of the upper house and the response given by the government in written format. I'm KRITI MISHRA and joining me is my colleague RAJAT KAIN.
Thanks KRITI and thanks to our viewers for watching this edition of Question Hour. Well, Question Hour is an important tool of parliamentary democracy whereby members get an opportunity to question the government and works done by various ministries and departments. Now, broadly speaking, there are three categories of questions: start, unstart and the short notice ones.
And our show focuses on the unstart questions of the upper house and also the questions asked during the ongoing 253rd session of the Rajya Sabha. But how are these questions asked and how are they answered by the government? Here's a small presentation for our viewers.
A member submits his or her questions at least 15 days before the office of Rajya Sabha chairman. The Rajya Sabha Secretariat chooses the questions to be answered through a draw of ballots. Separate ballots are held for start and unstart questions. The questions are scrutinized for admissibility under the current rules and precedents. Questions are disallowed if they are not in order. Advance copies of chosen questions are sent to ministry or departments concerned. The ministry concerns collect information to prepare the reply. The minister concerned reply to start questions on the floor of the House and provides written answers to unstart questions. Up to 160 unstart questions are listed every day in a separate list. Well, there you saw a presentation as to how these questions are asked. So KRITI, now it's time to begin our show. Well, the first question of this edition of the show that was asked by member SASMIT PATRA from the Prime Minister's office. The member asked steps taken by the government so as to help pensioners during lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic.
While the government has taken several steps to ensure timely credit to the accounts of the pensioners during the COVID-19 period, and this response has been given by MOS and Prime Minister's Office and Personnel and Public Grievances, Dr. Jitendra Singh. And the reply given by him is an affirmative. He says the Department of Pension and Pensioners Welfare, since the lockdown on account of the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic, has been taking various initiatives for the pensioners to ensure the timely credit of pension and retirement benefits and keep them healthy and aware during this time of COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the major initiatives and support measures taken in this regard are enumerated as under. A web event was organized by the department with the pensioners covering about 20 Indian cities for a tele-interaction with Dr. Randeep Guleria, who is director of AIIMS, in which all aspects of COVID-19 were covered to address pensioners' fear. For ensuring preventive health care of pensioners, another web event on yoga was held covering about 20 Indian cities, in the course of which a yoga trainer gave a live demonstration and lecture to pensioners and answered their questions in order to boost their immunity during lockdown and stay fit. For enhancing immunity and overall health of pensioners, this department has also scheduled an interactive session on the topic Power of Thoughts and Meditation in COVID-19 pandemic. To ensure timely credit of pension in cases where pension payment order has been issued but not sent to CPAO or banks due to the lockdown, the matter was taken up with the Comptroller General of Accounts to issue necessary directive to CPAO and CPPCs of banks and to use electronic modes during the unprecedented situation of COVID-19 pandemic till normalcy returns. Rule 64 of CCS Pension Rules 1972 was relaxed in order to ensure immediate provisional sanction of pensionary benefits amid the unprecedented situation of COVID-19, wherever an employee is likely to retire before finalization of his dues or is unable to submit the pension claim form. In order to enhance ease of living of central government civil pensioners, a provision has been made to integrate the ePPO, which is Electronic Pension Payment Order, with DigiLocker. This initiative will create a permanent record of PPO in the DigiLocker, and the pensioner can get the instant copy printout of his or her PPO. In view of the ongoing COVID-19 and the vulnerability of elderly population to coronavirus, the timeline for submitting the life certificate has been relaxed. All central government pensioners can submit life certificate from 1st of November 2020 to 28th of February 2021. However, the pensioners in the age group of 80 years and above can submit life certificate from 1st October 2020 to 28th February 2021. This department has also roped in the India Post Payments Bank and utilized its huge network of postmen and Grameen Dak Sevaks in providing doorstep facility to pensioners for submission of life certificate digitally. As a result, a huge number of pensioners across the country shall be able to avail doorstep service through postmen or Grameen Dak Sevak without visiting the bank branch or standing in a queue outside the bank branches by paying a nominal amount. The department is also instrumental in roping in an alliance comprising 12 public sector banks, which does doorstep banking for its customers in 100 major cities of the country under ease of banking reforms. As a result, Public Sector Banks Alliance has introduced the service for collection of life certificates under the umbrella of doorstep banking. The department has also issued instructions whereby the banks were directed to resort to video-based customer identification process for obtaining a life certificate with the guidelines of RBI, which will obviate the need to resort to a biometric-enabled device. And joining us on the Question Hour show is Rajya Sabha MP Dr. SASMIT Patra. Dr. Patra, welcome. So during the ongoing 253rd session of Rajya Sabha, you asked a pertinent question about the benefits or the facilities given to the pensioners during the COVID-19 pandemic or during the COVID-induced lockdown. The government has given a comprehensive response. What is your take?
I believe the government has given a very nice and detailed response, and I believe that the response covers most areas that I was really looking forward to. One of the aspects that is mentioned is the ease of providing the pension to the pensioners through the doorstep banking system, for which they tied up with 12 public sector banks. That's very good. Apart from that, they've also mentioned how they were able to undertake webinars for the livelihood and lifestyle in terms of yoga and various other patterns to reassure the pensioners in terms of their well-being during the COVID aspect. As well as it was a very good approach by the ministry to actually extend the duration of providing the life certificates, because usually we know that November is the month which is the life certificate month for all the pensioners, but having extended it to February, I believe it was a welcome step and helped the pensioners, especially those at this category of 80 years and above, to have a more detailed and a more processed way of undertaking things. I think this is a very important issue because pensioners are part of the segment which have got highest risk-prone aspect relating to COVID, and therefore the pensioners being given priority to ensure that they do not get exposed to the virus during the onslaught of the virus and the pandemic, and at the same point of time to ensure that the benefits of the pension and other aspects continue to go on unhindered. It's truly remarkable, and I want to thank the government and everyone involved in this process to ensure safety, security for our pensioners who are senior citizens, and at the same time to ensure that the benefits go on without being stopped.
Well, in the answer, the government has also enumerated several digital solutions that it has taken, but any specific suggestion that you'd like to make?
Firstly, I would like to suggest that DigiLocker, now that is something which is important for the PPOs, the pension papers that are there. Usually what happens is if you have a DigiLocker, the pensioners wherever they are in the country, if they're traveling or they are in transit, can actually undertake their pension work without having to go through the hassle of a person-to-person connect. At the same point of time, I believe the government should actually ease out the process of interfacing. Most of the times, even for life certificates, the pensioners have to go to the banks. Instead of doing that without being a person specific or without having to move out of their houses, if there can be online sessions by which the verification can be done on ground while they are in their houses, or the banks can ensure that their persons go over to those respective houses in door-to-door banking and undertake the life certificates, would be much more beneficial for the pensioners rather than the hassle and the tension of going to the banks every year in order to provide the life certificate.
All right, Dr. Patra, thank you so much for joining us and speaking to us. And let's move on to the next question, and this is a state-specific question asked by member Waiko, and this question is to the Ministry of Tourism, and he has asked the central government about the steps it has taken to promote tourism in the state of Tamil Nadu.
Well, the reply to this query was given by Minister of State for Tourism and Culture, Prahlad Singh Patel. The ministry says under its scheme of Swadesh Darshan and National Mission on Pilgrimage, Rejuvenation and Spiritual Heritage Augmentation Drive, that is Prashad, provides financial assistance to state governments and union territory administrations central agencies for development of tourism infrastructure and facilities in the country, including the state of Tamil Nadu. The projects under scheme are identified for development in consultations with the state governments and union territory administrations and are sanctioned subject to availability of funds, submission of suitable detailed project reports, adherence to scheme guidelines and utilization of funds released earlier. Sanctioning of projects under scheme is a continuous process. However, sanctioning of new projects under Swadesh Darshan scheme is currently under review. Well, that was a precise reply from Ministry of Tourism and Culture. Moving on to next question that was asked by member Mahesh Podar from Ministry of Power. The member asked whether it's fact that public sector undertakings working under the aegis of Ministry of Power have expertise in different sectors.
Well, and this response has been given by Power Minister R.K. Singh. He goes on to say that the public sector undertakings working under the aegis of Ministry of Power have sufficient in-house expertise and state-of-art technology required for planning and execution of power generation, transmission and distribution projects, including their operations and maintenance, and have adequate potential for growth in their respective sectors. However, keeping in view the renewable energy capacity expansion program of the government, the PSUs under the aegis of Ministry of Power have been diversifying their operations in the field of solar and wind energy. Besides, these PSUs have been evolving and aligning their operations as per prevailing market conditions as well as the process of energy transition with focus on clean energy technologies. Further, keeping in view the technical know-how, proficiency and experience in their respective fields, these PSUs have also been offering a wide range of consultancy services. Now let's move on to the next question, and this one has also been asked by member Mahesh Podar, and this question is to the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And the member has asked about marketing of solar power in the country and also whether Solar Power Corporation of India generates power itself.
Well, Kriti, it's an important question, and solar energy is one area where the government is investing a lot. And of course, there has been several initiatives taken by the government, and in vis-a-vis this question, reply has been given by Minister of Power R.K. Singh. The ministry says the Solar Energy Corporation of India Limited is engaged in both setting up projects for generation of renewable energy and functioning as intermediate procurer, selecting developers through transparent bids for setting up renewable energy generation projects, procuring power from them and selling it to distribution companies. The quantum of power generated by various solar power developers under Solar Energy Corporation of India Limited tenders in last 2 financial years have also been enclosed in the answer. For financial year 2018-19, 6,832 MU. For financial year 2019-20, 9,810 MU. The number of agreements signed by Solar Energy Corporation of India Limited with DISCOMs for financial year 2018-19 and 19-20 is already annexed in the reply. The government has prescribed renewable purchase obligation, that is RPO, that mandates electricity distribution companies, that is DISCOMs, to purchase minimum share of renewable power, including solar power. Further, government's initiatives like solar parks, green energy corridors, standard bidding guidelines for procurement of solar and wind power have led to a steep decline in solar tariff over the last few years. This makes renewable power an attractive alternative to conventional power. Well, moving on to the next question of this edition of show that was asked by member LMRM Kareem from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The member asked details about the mental health care professionals working with the private and government sector across the country.
Well, mental health has become a cause of concern worldwide, and there is an exhaustive reply given by the government, and this response has been given by MOS Health and Family Welfare, Ashwani Kumar Chaubey. And he goes on to say that the data regarding the number of registered mental health professionals in the country, including psychiatrists working in government and private sectors, is not maintained centrally. The data regarding the number of clinical psychologists in the country is not maintained centrally, but with a view to augment the availability of qualified manpower in field of mental health, the government under National Mental Health Program is implementing manpower development schemes for establishment of centers of excellence and strengthening establishment of postgraduate departments in mental health specialities. Till date, support has been provided to establishment of 25 centers of excellence and strengthening establishment of 47 postgraduate departments in 4 mental health specialities, which include psychiatry, clinical psychology, psychiatric nursing and psychiatric social work in the country. The government is also augmenting the availability of manpower to deliver mental health care services in the underserved areas of the country by providing online training courses to various categories of general healthcare, medical and paramedical professionals through the digital academies established at the 3 central mental health institutes, namely National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bengaluru, Lokpriya Gopinath Bordoli Regional Institute of Mental Health, Tejpur, Assam, and Central Institute of Psychiatry, Ranchi. The data regarding the number of additional seats for degree in psychiatry that have been added since the Mental Health Care Act 2017 came into force is not maintained centrally. And the data regarding the number of additional seats for a degree in clinical psychology that have been added since Mental Health Care Act 2017 came into force is also not maintained centrally. And let's move on to the last question of this edition of the Question Hour show, which has been asked by 3 members, Mallikarjun Kharge, Syed Nasir Hussain and Sanjay Singh. And they've asked a question about approval to co-vaccine.
Well, given the extent of the COVID-19 pandemic and India rolling out what has already been billed as world's largest mass immunization program, the question and the answer to it assumes paramount importance. The reply to this query was given by Minister of State for Health, Ashwani Kumar Chaubey. In the reply, the ministry says Covaxin vaccine is being manufactured by Messrs. Bharat Biotech International Limited. The firm had submitted interim safety and immunogenicity data of phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials carried out in the country, along with safety data including serious adverse event data of the ongoing phase 3 clinical trial in the country. The data was reviewed by Central Drug Standard Control Organization in consultation with Subject Expert Committee. The committee noted that vaccine is inactivated whole virion coronavirus vaccine having potential to target mutated coronavirus strains. The data demonstrated a strong immune response, both antibody as well as T-cell and in vitro viral neutralization. The ongoing clinical trial is large trial on 25,800 Indian subjects, in which all 25,800 subjects have been already enrolled. Moreover, the firm presented safety and efficacy data from the non-human primate challenge study also to CDSCO, that is Central Drug Standard Control Organization, where the vaccine has been found to be safe and effective. After detailed deliberation, the Subject Expert Committee recommended grant of permission for restricted use in emergency situation in public interest as an abundant precaution in clinical trial mode to have more options for vaccination, especially in case of infected by mutant strains. Based on the recommendation of Subject Expert Committee, CDSCO has granted permission to manufacture COVID-19 vaccines to Messrs. Bharat Biotech International Limited for restricted use in emergency situation in public interest as an abundant precaution in clinical trial mode with various conditions and restrictions. As a part of the above permissions granted by the CDSCO, Bharat Biotech is required to submit safety data on adverse events following immunization and adverse event of special interest with due analysis every 15 days the first 2 months and monthly thereafter to the CDSCO. CDSCO, in consultation with the Subject Expert Committee, has approved the protocol for rolling out the whole virion inactivated coronavirus vaccine, that is in short referred to as BBV152, in clinical trial mode along with fact sheet, informed consent form and the adverse event form. As per the approval, in case of any serious adverse events, vaccine recipients will be provided medically recognized standard of care in government designated and authorized centers or the hospital. The compensation for serious adverse effect will be paid by the sponsor if the serious adverse effect is proven to be causally related to the vaccine. If any vaccine recipient develops symptoms of COVID-19, vaccine recipients will be provided medically recognized standard of care in government designated and authorized center and the hospital. The approval in question has been given by a national regulator based on the recommendations of the Subject Expert Committee. Well, that's it in this edition of Question Hour. Thanks for watching Sunset TV. Stay tuned for more.
Stay healthy, stay well.